Hi class, this is Professor Harmony Kim. This video recording is the last lecture of Buddhism and Science. So far, you studied Buddhist and scientific perspective in relation to meditation. Today, let's study clinical instances by meditation. Meditation practice is a powerful tool to improve mental health from depression and transform emotion from negative to positive one. There are two clinical instances by meditation. One is MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. The other is MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. This clinical approach is applied to the patient who have severely suffered from mental instability. These clinical techniques are committed by the meditation practice and facilitate to release the threat of overwhelming depression and free deepened hopelessness and halt fully developed relapse of committing suicide. The case study for MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, is well described in a research paper in the Journal of Clinical Psychology, titled Mindfulness-based Cognitive Therapy for Prevention of Recurrence of Suicidal Behavior. This paper addresses how the treatment of MBCT keeps from the reactivation of suicidal attempt. The case background is summarized as follows. The client, named Maria, age 35, was living with her partner and daughter. Her daughter's age was 7. Maria worked as a secretary and wanted to do something more creative and independent, but lacked confidence and had low self-esteem. Maria regularly used drugs and alcohol. She did not normally take drugs in the home and attempt to control her drinking for the sake of her daughter, but had several drinking beings before the start of the MBCT course. She was feeling increasing frustration and hopelessness about changing her life and improving her stormy relationship with her partner. She reported recurrent crises during which her thoughts whirled around and around her head. She felt that life was not worth living. She was a complete failure. There was no point going on. She was in a black hole and she wanted to die. She had attempted suicide once by overdose 7 years ago. Maria described a family environment devoid of love and affection. She began experiencing periodic downs during adolescence and started drinking alcohol and later using drugs to blow out painful thoughts and numb her feelings. She had managed periods of sustained abstinence in the past and said that she would like to stop taking drugs completely but would prefer to continue social drinking. Committing suicide has a characteristic of continued trials in the condition of depressed feeling. From this research, it notes that people who have repeatedly tried to commit suicide can quickly get better in a day after the crisis is over, even without any treatment. This fact points out that the dysfunctional attitude and negative patterns of thinking that are central to depressive thinking normalize as mood improves, and that normalization presents a paradox. In other words, cognitive factors predict depression and suicidality, but they are inaccessible out of episode. In other words, concealed dangerous element for relapse depression, referred to as cognitive reactivity, has been hidden in normal mood. But they again induce cognitive patterns in the negative mood, which were found to be the same in the former depressed mood. This research refers to the efficiency by MBCT better than other cognitive therapy by way of meditation practice. MBCT therapy, especially in cases of repetitive suicidal behavior, has the advantage over the other cognitive therapy. How meditation practice are applicable to our life in a practical way. MBCT, MBSR release threat of overwhelming depression. This clinical approach free deepened hopelessness, halt relapse of committing suicide, shift negative to positive cognitive process. MBCT and MBSR require for attention. Attention-based Buddhist meditation affects in more broader scopes, such as improving health. For example, reducing blood pressure or curing illness. For example, reduction in cardiovascular disease, reducing habitual response, also strong cognitive ability to defend anxiety. Meditation training for 8 weekly classes allows the building of the practitioner's internal awareness to increase, developing a different relationship with the thought, feelings, and body sensation. This makes a shift from negative thought. This negative thought closely connected to suicidal trial, but shift from negative thought to positive cognitive process, such that, what's going on here? What is this? Do I recognize this? Is it an old tape playing, like memory? Do I engage with it? Can I just stay with it, notice what it does, and watch it as it passes and dissolves? MBCT can lower the recurrence of depression from 78% to 36% in 55 patients with 3 or more previous episodes. And this infers the power of mindfulness-based meditation by shifting from negative to positive thought. Going back to the case of Maria, MBCT can help Maria by means of knowing the initiation of signals such as the sense of failure or deepened hopelessness. Then she interprets those negative feelings as a part of a passing mind mode. This interpretation results in distance from suicidal trial and build up compassion and self-acceptance, which can face and oppose low self-respect. Therefore, when Maria needs to fight addiction to alcohol in order to overcome negative thought, mindfulness-based practice comprehends those negative states as ephemeral event, just a flying event, so the patient realizes that it is not so worthwhile sticking to those moments any longer. The relationship between subjective experience and any thought, feelings, or sensations that occur from the mindfulness meditation can transform her cognitive process into the positive way by awareness without judgment. And this well reflects the main characteristic of Buddhist meditation. There is another clinical instance based on meditation practice, named the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR. This program at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center has been widely grown in pursuit of coping with stress by virtue of self-regulation. Neuroscientists recruit medical students for the experiment due to their intense and stressful lifestyle. Neuroscientists demonstrate the effects of MBSR as reduction of anxiety and psychological distress. Empathy levels are increased and doctor-patient relationship can be enhanced by way of practicing MBSR. It is reasonable to choose the medical student as the participant because they can be good research object in terms of coping with stress on a daily basis. But it must not only be the case for particular people, but also for anyone, especially in dynamically changing circumstances of present day. Self-regulation is regarded as a key feature contributing to a mechanism by which stress reduction and emotion management can be handled. Mindfulness training alters the way to interpret stress in a way that invites the participant to view stress as a challenge instead of a threat. Typically, MBSR is held 8 to 10 weeks, and the methodology is pretty much based on Buddhist meditation, such that whenever attention wanders to inevitable thoughts and emotions as they arise, the participant simply acknowledge and accept such thoughts and feelings, then let go of them as attention is directed back to the breath. Other techniques than breathing can have a different object of focus to sustain attention. Just before, I address about breathing, but maybe practitioner can concentrate on certain object or certain color. Despite the fact of the effect of mitigating stress by MBSR, neuroscientists challenges the clarity between awareness, such as mindfulness and relaxation. In other words, a more delicate concept of mindfulness needs to be defined in order to evaluate whether the experimental results are generated from Buddhist meditation or just relaxation. This clarity is important because it can provide a better way of applying MBSR depending on the types of emotional state or the kind of personality. Otherwise, the efficacy of MBSR might not be a method which can justify the role of Buddhist meditation as a valid practice. So when you relax, your stress also can be reduced. But MBSR is more challenging your stress by observing the stress then interpret stress different way. It's not just forgetting. It's not just compromising by way of relaxation. Stress can be equivalent to human suffering in the Buddhist sense. According to Buddhist doctrine, meditation practice is the skillful means to overcome suffering in the context of Four Noble Truths. The applications of the Buddhist meditation to attenuating stress in a clinical sense contribute to improve human health at a certain degree. But contemplating the cause of suffering, thereby realizing the reality by means of meditation, is different from just mitigating stress in the sense of quality of meditation. Let's investigate the significance of meditation beyond the Buddhist boundary. Recent scientific discovery by means of several neuroimaging techniques on the brain reveal neuroanatomical, clinical, and psychological effects of meditation. Neuroscientists at Harvard Medical School propose that meditation practice can influence a change of brain structure. Their research reports that the prefrontal cortical thickness of the practitioners who engage in the meditation for a long time is similar to the thickness of young non-practitioners, despite the fact that the cortical thickness is supposed to get thinner as people get old. In other words, as people get old, the thickness of cortex become thinner and thinner. But when someone engages in meditation for a long time, the cortical thickness is similar to the thickness of cortex in young people. Scientists address regular practice of meditation may slow the rate of neural degeneration at this specific locus, such as occipital-temporal region. These findings suggest that cortical plasticity can occur in adults in areas important for cognitive and emotional processing. This figure shows the thickness of visual cortex correlated with meditation practice. If you look at the left panel, you see the orange color circled with green octagonal shape. That is the spot called inferior occipital-temporal visual cortex, and this spot is the activation site through meditation practice. The right panel, you can see the declining slope graph. As people get old, the cortical thickness is reduced. The slope shows declining in terms of cortical thickness. However, the regular practice of meditation may slow down the rate of neural degeneration at occipital-temporal region, implying that cortical plasticity can occur in areas important for emotional processing by way of Buddhist meditation. The effects of the meditation practice manifest not only in the alteration of brain structure, but also in the physiological metabolism, such as immune response. Subjects who do 8-week mindfulness meditation practice are vaccinated to investigate the production of antibody population. The meditation practitioners generate more antibodies than the control group who do not engage in any meditation. This indicates that the alteration of the immune response is mediated by the meditation training. Therefore, this research is hypothesized that the magnitude of increase in left-sided activation predicted the magnitude of antibody titer rise to the vaccine. The research regarding cognitive and neurophysiological outcomes sufficiently present the advantage on the meditation practice from a different angle. This graph shows antibody titration after meditation. When you look at the left panel, antibody titration in response to influenza vaccine between meditation and control group. So, when people engage in meditation, it is more efficient to respond to immune activation. Y-axis indicate log transformed antibody rise between control and meditation practitioners. So the more engaged in meditation, the more effective in immune response. The right graph shows increased activation in left side brain and rise in antibody upon influenza vaccine between pre to post test in meditation group. So left side of brain is the region to activate immune response, and practitioner engage in meditation. That meditation practice modulate neuroplasticity in left side of brain, which result in increase in immune response. So today you've studied clinical perspective of Buddhist meditation. Quiz 1. Which organ system can be closely affected by meditation practice? I informed this just before. And quiz 2. Which clinical technique has been applied to the medical student? MBCT or MBSR or any other technique? You can easily find the answer from the lecture. Okay, you need to submit 2 quiz answers to my email address. This is the last submission of a weekly based assignment before lecture final. So please write down your last name, comma, followed by first name, and write down 2 quiz answers. The due date of this assignment is June 9th, Sunday. I also sent research article titled Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy for Prevention of Recurrence of Suicidal Behavior. Please read this article. It's not difficult research paper. You need this article to prepare for the final lecture exam. Okay, this is the end of last lecture of Buddhism and Science. Thank you very much.